of the Cripple Connection podcast. And I'm only assuming that we're only going to continue to do these live so that me and my partner, Jeffrey Redmond, can continue to talk to the people and also show the videos that we're going to be talking about in these videos and these podcasts that we've been doing. So with that said, Jeffrey Redmond himself. Jeffrey, what's up, dude?
Hi, Cody, man. This is exciting. I'm super excited.
It really is. So, okay, this is our first live episode. So, let me just go ahead and get this out of the way. I apologize for any hiccups that may occur. We're doing this shit on the fly. I'm actually going to do a real quick test to see if we are live.
We are.
And we are indeed. Perfect. So, I think we're good to go. Jeffrey, there's nothing to it but to do it. Let's talk about the topics for today's show. Now, last episode, you and I talked a whole lot about Microsoft and the epic flop that was their press conference that led to no excitement, no real energy behind any of the new titles, or very little gameplay to be had. But now, PS5, without even putting out their own press conference, without even doing anything of their own accord, they basically let the developers and the people making new titles for their system be the ones to put out and kind of flex their muscle in the name of Sony. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to start with this Unreal 5 tech demo. And this came out in the middle of the week, and the first thing I did was send it to Jeffrey. And really, it's going to show the capability of what these new systems are capable of doing, and how powerful these systems are actually going to be. And one of the reasons why we decided to start off with this instead of Ghost of Tsushima, because Ghost is also going to be on PlayStation 4, whereas this is 100% PlayStation 5 graphics. Jeffrey, what did you think about it?
It's absolutely incredible. One of the interesting things here, and they talk about this in the demo. Of course, we have their voices muted for copyright reasons and other such things. But one of the cool things here is that they said that they're actually physically capable of actually taking the cinematic quality that you would normally find in the upscaled cinematics for games and actually ray trace it in using some very complicated triangle dynamic shading crap that I don't quite understand. But it's absolutely. I mean, take a look at this. It's freaking gorgeous. I've never seen this.
Yeah, it really. I mean, how they described it was, pretty much all of this level that you would be seeing, you might see this in an animated movie that you go to the movies to see. But normally rendering that in a video game would normally be impossible. But what you're talking about now is we have essentially blurred the lines between these high quality animated movies that come out from Pixar and all these other companies, and now video games are going to be able to display the same kind of graphical power, and to be able to load and render so much detail. I mean, even look at the face on the statue,
the statue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're able to see so many details, and man, it's like we're finally living in the future. And I kind of had that moment with Final Fantasy VII. Also, Jeffrey, seeing the graphical power of that game and walking through Midgar. But man, when you see the shading and the lighting effects and what they're able to do, it's really crazy, man. We're living in the future.
That was the big part of this demonstration. I mean, the graphics are great and everything, but they talk about the dynamic lighting and how much better the PS5 is going to be at rendering this type of lighting.
And even, as you can see, right here. Go ahead. Yeah.
They're able to move and calculate shadows and like be able to adjust the lighting accordingly. And it sounds so simple, but you wouldn't believe how many times and how many games there are shadows everywhere, but it's like the lighting never seems right. It doesn't seem real. Um, and I think that's just it's the the I can't even the limitation of the PS4 and all the consoles we have now. It's just
Yeah.
not capable of doing that. But with this new hardware and the way they're doing things, this looks absolutely amazing.
I mean,
So
you're even able to see, like, even right here. I'll pause it for a sec. The difference in shadows between, like, where there is no sun underneath these rocks, just how deep
right,
and dark it is, to faded shadows where the gorge is still clearly lit, but there's no direct sunlight on it. I mean, they're really
right,
going for attention to detail, small
yeah, definitely,
details that you know maybe you would have never noticed before. But
hmm
now it's, I mean, they really lend to immersing yourself in the world.
most
And
definitely.
all this is in real time. And they even made it a point to talk about um, these statues coming up right here. I'm going to fast forward to it. They talk about how many millions of triangles are on this alone, that
Right,
they're able to just take something in ZBrush and just put it into the game, and they don't have to worry about making it fit the level or the world. It's just, and by the way, you can tell I don't know what I'm talking about while I talk about this, uh,
I mean
but
it's
you're able to see they even put more of those same statues in the level. So I mean, to
right,
tell you what they're able to render in real time,
right,
I mean, it's incredible, the
yeah.
level of capacity that we're moving to.
And this all has to do with like ray tracing and being able to trace light
Yeah,
exactly to the point where they need to trace it. Like I said, I'm not a painter. I'm not a visual effects guy, so my understanding of this stuff is quite limited. All I know really is that they have more control. I mean, look at that. Look at the way the light is bouncing and the
yeah.
shadow is moving according to the position of you know that blows my fucking mind, man. It's
It
great.
really is, dude. It's cool. When I first saw this, um, I mean, I got hyped, man. I mean, when we're growing up and we're imagining what video games can be, or this is what we dreamt of. I mean,
Yeah,
being able
definitely.
to, I mean, and just think of the possibilities and all of the, for new Final Fantasy titles to come, or
Right.
Devil May Cry. I mean, I would love to see them remake even stuff like Jack and Daxter with like an
Yes.
updated feel with this kind of technical prowess. Like the types of
Exactly.
visuals that
Yeah.
that you're going to be able to create are going to be incredible. And let's not gloss over this. Video games have kind of been disrespected in a lot of ways as
Definitely.
an art form when it comes to
Yeah.
telling stories and
Right.
showcasing depth of character. And I feel like now, when you're able to have such incredible facial animations and voice acting, and you're able to
Yeah.
blend all these things together so seamlessly, I mean, video games, they're going to be able to tell a story that not only can immerse you as much as a movie can, but even
Right.
more so now because you're a part of it. And that's
Yeah.
that's exciting. It's really
And
exciting, man.
that's the thing is like you know we're actually capable of that now to a certain extent. I think gaming has come a long way since the 8-bit era when I grew up, So I mean it's a lot different now, and I was always told that the next medium, whatever that medium chooses to be, should always elevate whatever came before it. And this
Right.
actually feels like a true elevation
It definitely
of
does.
what is to come. So I definitely think um, they're really pushing it, And
Yeah,
I love that.
and by the way, I mean, this is a PS5 tech demo, but like we said in
Right.
last week's podcast, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you're looking at next generation throughout. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's a game that's going to come out on both platforms, they're both going to be able to do that. And so that was a little bit of an appetizer.
Right.
But now we're going to get to the meat of today's show. And this came out yesterday. The first thing I did as soon as I see it is send it to Jeffrey. I'm like, oh boy, dude, do we have something to talk about now? And that is the much anticipated Ghost of Tsushima. And dude, I mean, I was so excited that you and I are going to be able to talk about this.
Most definitely.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Sucker Punch has gone out of their way. This is the first time that we're seeing gameplay since E3 2018, where they last showed off the game. And oh my god,
I mean, and it's
beautiful. I mean, it's out. Like, I mean, I remember having moments when I saw Last of Us for the first time, or Uncharted, or these powerhouse graphical games, and you're just completely taken aback by what you're looking at and just how truly gorgeous it is. But oh my god, I mean, Ghost of Tsushima, I don't know if I've ever been as hyped after watching an 18-minute tech demo or a demo for the trailer than I have been for this game. I love Japanese culture. I love samurais and ninjas and fighting the way that they did. I think it's an underserviced time period.
It really is. It's only been recently, like, really put into. I mean, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice kind of tried to, although it had a more fantastical feel. What I like about this game in particular is that it's drawn from actual history. Like I said, we have everything muted so you can't hear, but this is the feudal area between when the war basically between Japan and the Mongols invading. So, like, this is an actual period,
it's a very real period of time. It's an island off the coast of Japan that the Mongols actually did conquer. It wasn't until later that it was thrown back, or that they were thrown back. The Mongols were never able to conquer Japan, even though they conquered most of the known world. And I want you and everyone to pay attention. As you see Jin, that's the main protagonist's name. I mean, as he's riding in this sequence on this horse, they do a great job because the developers don't even talk at this point in time. So you can use the wind to guide you to your next destination, but make it a point to look around the world as you're running. And the colors, dude, everything from the colors to the bamboo to the horse riding. Right up here, if you look off in the distance, you see someone, I guess, being attacked by a bear or a wolf or something.
He just rides by like it's no big deal.
Got ultimately fucked up. He's like, yeah, whatever, later, bro. Hope that works out well for you.
Yep.
And there's here's two more deer. They make it a point to talk about whenever you're riding and moving around, make it a point to look out into the distance and notice your environment, because they will give you subtle hints and clues about other little mini games or things that you can do in the world that aren't necessarily connected to the main story. So
they talk about that the smoke in the distance there. Like, they said you could actually go there and see what's up.
Yeah.
Like, or you could go off the beaten path. Like, he's about to. I believe this is the point where he follows the bird. Is that coming up?
Yeah, there is a bird coming up, and birds will alert you to different. I think different color birds alert you to different kinds of quests. I'm not 100% sure on that. But dude, Jeffrey, let's just talk about it from this standpoint. I mean, you and I have seen this whole trailer, and we'll get into it more when it gets into the combat. But listen, as a longtime Assassin's Creed fan, everyone has been begging for an Assassin's Creed Japan. And we've
Right.
never
And that's
gotten
what this
it.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
we've never
essentially.
gotten it. And finally, Sucker Punch Studio comes along, shoots the bird to Ubisoft, and says, "Fuck off. We're gonna
Yeah,
make the
we're making our
game
own
that
thing.
your fans want, and we're gonna make it better than you." Now, maybe I'm
Right.
putting more drama to it than there needs to be, but man,
Well,
I mean, this is everything that I've ever, being a Japanophile, someone who loves Japan, the
mhm.
culture, the
Yep.
history, and the background. Having an open world game where you can
Mhm.
explore ancient Japan in the time of the samurai, dude, this is the wet dream of so many different gamers out there. It's
Yeah.
not even funny, man. So let's talk about that for a minute.
So,
Just having
yeah,
an
definitely.
open world Japanese samurai game.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's just, I mean, like I said, they're actually drawing on history. Um, you can pretty much go anywhere and do anything. And I know that's a big thing in open worlds. A lot of people tend to say that, but like we've seen this guy go off in a completely different direction a few times now. It's like
Yeah,
you can do what you need to do, and look how beautiful this fucking landscape is.
dude,
I
it
mean, we're
really is
literally with
crazy.
damn forest, and
Yeah,
you
and
know,
again, I mean, you're able to notice when dude, right here. I'll even pause it, dude. Looking at the yellow of this forest, dude,
yeah,
it's incredible, man.
I know,
Like I love a video game where the visuals are just as much of uh, a reason as to why you would play it as the
right,
gameplay. You know,
right,
like this right there, dude. Oh my god, when you see the open landscape and the fall colors in the in the forest, you're able to traverse all around it, dude. It makes you want to be a part of the world even more. I mean,
right.
it's like a whole nother reason why you would even play this.
And it's almost like a completely like that art style right there. It was like it's got this. I mean, it's obviously realism, but off in the distance, you kind of get that fantastical feel of just how big this place is, and
Yeah,
it's amazing. And look at all the varied different environments we had.
yeah,
I
the
mean, we had a
different
forest back
landscapes.
there. We've got you know real like sunlight coming through here. We've got the water reflection down here a little bit. You don't see it too well, but it is there.
Yeah, I mean, they're on
Look
an
at these
island.
fucking purple
Yeah,
flowers, man.
yeah. Dude,
I mean,
colors are great. Colors are great. They're so awesome. And by the way, we don't have to hit every. I mean, we can talk about the whole thing without having gotten to each part first. But it's getting ready to
right,
get.
but I just mean,
It's
oh my
getting
god,
ready to go um, into
the
the
combat.
combat. But
And this is where I want to get your perspective because
yeah,
I
and
still have a lot of questions here, but I'm
right.
curious to see what you think. All right, so the subtitles said, Jin the Samurai. So we're gonna see him as an honorable samurai. These are the guardians of Japan, right? They fight with honor. Usually a katana. I think. He's got heavy armor here. We're about to see him go into combat, and um, I'm curious to see, or curious to know what you think about the combat because I'm getting some like Batman Arkham Asylum vibes kind of
Yeah,
thing going on here, but I don't know that for sure. It's hard to tell,
I got a
but it
bunch
is,
of different vibes. I got a little bit of Neo. I got some
yeah,
Suchiro, or I think I'm saying that right.
Sekiro,
Yeah, Sekiro.
yeah,
Um, I mean, a lot of it seems to be based on timing,
right.
which I do like. I mean,
I do too.
it's not a hack and slash, and it does feel
Right,
like it's going to require a level of skill. But I mean, that's
right,
really what a sword fight is. I mean,
right.
it's a lot of times it's one swing, whoever hits correctly first, and
Kills. Yeah,
yeah, and I'm really excited about this. So this is why I say, like, they're doing Assassin's Creed better than Assassin's Creed,
yeah. And
because
can we
this is
just talk about like
yeah
how uncluttered the hood is? because
Yes.
we've got this down here in the left corner, which I don't know what it is, and you've got your objective up here, but you don't have a lot of button mashing things here that say have to press this button at this time to do this move. Like it's really like seamless in terms of like what it's showing you. So there's not a bunch of information just crammed on the screen for the sake of it.
So
You know?
I rewound it a little bit because
Yeah.
if you blink you miss it, but apparently
Okay.
on the directional pad, or
Uh
actually
huh.
no, on the it's on the
Some
main,
kind of wheel
yeah,
down there.
but
Yeah.
no, it's square, triangle, X, and circle. But
Oh, okay. Okay. So
one
yeah, I
of
didn't even notice that.
yeah, so that kind of makes me think that you're going to be attacking purely with the trigger buttons or the top buttons, the L's and
That makes
R's.
sense.
But one of the things I mean, if you notice, he's able to parry the attack, and then at the last moment, he's able to hit a kill strike. And
Yeah, with the death blow.
there's a
Yeah.
moment where they have this little blue glowing dot in front of them that lets you know when it's your turn to parry. But this is I'm gonna rewind it one more time because again, if you blink, you miss it. And this is the most exciting part of the combat, in my opinion, and it really gives you a clue as to what they're going to be able to let you do from a combat perspective. So if you
Right.
notice right here, he goes from stone stance to water stance. So
Yeah.
he has different. So now, if you notice, he holds the blade above his head, and
Yeah. Which is
it's
very Neo. I mean, if you've played
right.
Neo, you know
And
that
yeah,
there's,
Neo
you
let
know,
you have a bunch of different styles to work
yeah.
with.
So I mean, that's not necessarily a new thing, but I like the fact that they have that there because that is actual like those are actual stances. I don't
Yeah,
know how much you know about sword combat, but those are real actual stances to for specific reasons.
and
Um,
it even kind of makes me think that when fighting different kinds of weapons or maybe even a certain number of attackers, that
yeah,
there are certain stances that are better than other.
than
So
others
it
exactly.
really makes it where you have to earn new stances, or it makes it where it's important that you're able to use different styles of swordplay tactics.
Right, right.
We've now moved
Now
on
here's
to
my question
yeah,
because we're
the
going into
ghost.
the stealth stuff right now.
Yeah,
Okay, and this is a completely different style. This is also very similar to something like
we're
the Arkham
watching.
series,
Yeah.
or you know, even Tenshu's Stealth Assassin. I don't know if you know that
Oh
game,
yeah,
but
for
that was
sure. A lot of
it's fucking
Tenshu
Tenshu,
vibes.
man. I love
A lot of
it.
Tenshu vibes, and I mean,
um,
basically, if you're a fan of Japan culture, like if you were
yeah,
to make a game with as much broad appeal as possible, I would
yeah,
say, okay, let's make an open world game where you can explore Japan, but you can
right.
also choose to be either a samurai or a ninja.
See, and
I mean, you
that's
can
the thing
basically decide to play it however you want to, and I want you to
I'm
notice.
confused about though. Like, are there points where you're gonna have to like do both,
Right.
or can you choose to play completely one way or completely the other? Is my thing. So,
From
like, are there gonna be sets or missions where you have to be a samurai and
from
have to be, you know, a ghost, or can
right.
you do the whole game as one or the other?
So
That would be interesting to know.
from what I'm gleaming, uh, and by the way, I paused it because I wanted to show this off real quick. Well,
Oh yeah,
I'll
sorry.
answer. Well, I'll answer your question first. I do think that it's going to let you play however you choose to.
Yeah.
And again, another kind of blink if you miss it moment. Right here, you notice that if there are two guys that are close enough to one another, you can choose to kill both of them at the
Both of
same
them
time.
at once.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you were able to hit triangle right there, and boom, you get this one, then boom, you're able to go right to the guy next to him.
That
And
is so damn
it
cool.
is awesome. And by the way, this is the same. I don't know if you noticed this. This is the same level that we just saw him essentially big dick with the samurai.
Right,
Uh,
and that's what makes me think you could do one or the
yeah,
other.
and
Because if
right,
they're
that's why.
showing a mission
Yes,
twice, it means two different ways you can approach it, which
So
is really cool.
yeah, and I mean, I really do think I mean, this is going to cater to your own play style. Like right there, you're
Yeah,
able to use a smoke bomb, and make him divert his attention to use a critical strike. I mean, it's
right.
very much ninja like. I mean, you're using
Yes.
tactics, um, projectiles. You're using a lot more options.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, you can straight up decide, um, to be a samurai, and
Yeah.
live that kind of lifestyle. And by the way, even it says at the bottom, the more you do shit like this as the ghost, they're gonna come to fear the ghost, and that's going to
Right.
play into how they react later on down the road.
Yeah,
And it's just
definitely.
incredible, man. It's just giving you the option to live as a badass in feudal Japan.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I mean, other games have tried this. Like we mentioned Sekiro earlier. Um, that game didn't decide whether he wanted to be a samurai or a ninja. He just kind of had like skills of both, which this is doing here. But there's a clear distinction in play style between between the two.
right.
Like, and that's the point, is that the same skill set you use as a samurai is not the same skill set you're going to be using as a ninja. Well, they call it a ghost, but it's a damn ninja. I mean, come on, it's a ninja.
Yeah.
uh, but it's so cool because it's completely two drastically different ways to do this, and I love it.
Yeah, two very different ways. Um, but dude, I mean, it gives you a lot of options. It seems like the missions are going to be varied,
Yeah.
depending on the story
Hmm.
and what you're having to do. And I really do think it's going to give you a lot of flexibility,
I think
which
so too.
I'm happy about. Like I said, it's a pick your poison. You want to be a samurai, you want to be a ninja, or do you want to be both? Um,
Right.
and a lot of times with open world games like this, I mean, you have to kind of remember to do story missions because
You
of
do.
what we're seeing now. I mean, you're going to be able to unlock different clothes, different weapons, different
Yep.
styles. And he even says in the demo that depending on what you're wearing, it will change your stats in certain ways. So you
Right.
might have access to certain areas easier based on what you're wearing,
Yep.
on some real gang shit, some real blood and crip type shit.
Right.
Don't be
Exactly.
wearing the wrong colors around here now.
Yeah. No.
But dude, there's a lot of I mean, you even see the armor that he's wearing in the background. I mean, eventually
Yeah. I
you're going
mean.
to be able to deck yourself out. You even see
Yeah.
these charms that you're able to earn, um, like smoke bombs restore 25% of your
Percent of
health.
your
So,
health.
I mean, you'll be able to obtain items like this that allow you to boost your own preferred method of play,
And
which
that's
I
the
think
cool
is
thing
fun.
too, is that
Yeah,
I mean, you can build your looks like you can build your character any way, that it suits your play style. So that's really neat. Oh my god, I just can't get over these sweeping vistas, man. This is like such.
it
I
really is
mean,
awesome. I mean, it's one of those things that I have, whenever I play an open world game, like a lot of the times I have really not a whole lot of interest in the story. Like
yeah,
I played Red Dead Redemption, right? And yeah, Red Dead Redemption. I love Rockstar
it was good,
And
but
GTA and everything they do.
yeah,
But a lot of when I did play, like I didn't play it for the story. Like I
right,
wanted to get kind of lost in the open world, just being a Western badass,
right,
and that's why I bought that game. I'm gonna buy
right,
this for the same reason, man. Like I want
right.
to just get lost. Yeah, I'm gonna play the story, but I want to just get lost as like I said earlier, a badass in Japan. And
Also, I usually don't give a shit about photo mode, but look at some of these like filters and shit you're able to put on here.
yeah,
Like
it's.
that is,
By the
I
way, I
mean,
did want to point attention to the the tiger uh, sheath that he has on his side. I'm
Yeah.
messing it up. I'm not hitting it right. The that right there, dude.
Yeah.
And that like the options of what you're going to be able to obtain later on. I imagine there
Right.
being some pretty crazy shit that probably isn't era specific. That will
Right.
be fun. That they're gonna do. And this, dude, this made me jump for joy
Yeah.
because I'm a huge Japanese anime fan, and dude, I'm 100% subs over dubs. I prefer to hear the original Japanese voice actors.
Yeah.
Even the original Assassin's Creed games, I always put them in their original language.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and because I wanted it to be like I'm watching something real. So
Right.
like I'm watching someone like Ezio really in Italy talking in Italian,
Yeah. Italian.
and
Yeah. It makes a
yeah,
difference.
a game that's set in Japan, dude. There's no way that I'm not going to use the Japanese
Yeah.
voice track, man.
Okay. Now I'm more excited about this than you are.
Yeah, right. Okay,
So
so you and I are of different opinions and mindsets about this. I'll just say this: when you have something that is so visually beautiful like this, I understand what they're trying to do, but I almost feel like it's a travesty to play this in black and white when the colors and the visuals are just so incredible. But
I agree.
I know that
I agree with that.
you were
Yeah.
excited about this. So tell me.
Okay, so I'm a huge fan of old Japanese cinema, like these guys are that made this game, and all of them are in black and white, and they're fantastic. And I think, like you said about the Japanese voice tracks, I think this would personally add some flair to it to make you really feel like, you know, you're doing something in that era. So, like I said, it's just a personal choice. But the way I see this is that if you really are going to be able to pick between being a samurai and a ninja, I guarantee you're going to have to play this game at least twice if you want to see everything, right? Because I imagine you could do an entire playthrough as a samurai and nearly an entire playthrough as a ghost. And I guarantee you that the outcome of what you do the majority of the time is probably going to affect the ending. So the way I look at it, now I don't know if that's true or not, that's just my own 2 cents. But the way I look at it, I could do both because I could have two different playthroughs, man. So I'm going to do the black and white first, and then I'm going to do. But you're right, though. The colors are so pretty. I don't
I know,
know.
I like it too. So people online are calling it the Kurosawa mode,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
because you can make it just like an Akira Kurosawa film.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean,
Right, right, right.
again, when you're able to see, I'm not gonna do it first. Like when I mean, if you're able to turn it off and on, which I do think that you are,
I think you will at any
yeah, then like
time. Yeah,
maybe
the
certain like
options.
again, there was a part where they kind of showed like a battle on the beach, and
Right.
that was really like this part right here. And yeah, if you're gonna have a duel on the beach in the middle of the night, then yeah, I might throw on classic mode. But scenes specifically like this one right here, man, like when you're able to see the colors all around you and the lighting and the
Hmm.
shade. I don't want to say that it's a gimmick, but I'm saying I feel like to get the full experience of this, you really should see the color part first.
Yeah.
But again, man, it's incredible that they thought to put that in there because again, you're
Yep.
right. There are so many people like myself, like yourself, that's a fan of Japanese culture and films, and you want to placate to that base
Right.
of fans. I mean, those are the people that are going to pick this up. I mean,
Pick this up most definitely.
you might not even be a hardcore gamer, but the fact that
Right.
you'll be able to play this kind of game in this kind of
Hmm.
setting, with all the different environments and landscapes and vistas and all the things that you're going to be. And by the way, right there, that's going to be a mini game. Pay respect at all the shrines in the land or whatever.
Right.
That's going to be
Right.
a trophy or an unlockable.
Oh, this is gonna be one hell of a platinum trophy, dude. I
Oh,
don't
for
know if I'm
sure.
gonna be able to do
Yeah,
it.
you better be on your game, man. Cause
I mean, just the sheer size of this thing has me already intimidated. I'm like, Jesus, here we go.
by the way,
Um,
even small stuff like I missed this earlier. I'm glad I rewinded. It looks like you'll be able to play instruments. He's playing
oh,
the
that's
yeah,
cool.
he's playing the flute right here. I don't know what it's called, but there's a Japanese guitar that you would see a
Yeah,
lot of geishas play. You might even have something like that. I mean, and look, when you look at the landscape and the world, there's a few pagodas down here that you're able to see.
yep,
There's obviously stuff going on in the background, all the boats in the water. And to think that's a real world that you can go to any one of these places at any time. Again, man, it's like I
yeah,
don't know. I'm happy that we're getting this now, especially with the
yeah,
capability of next gen consoles and
yeah.
the ability to display this kinds of stuff. But
So, do you think because this game is actually coming out in July?
right, so we're gonna
So,
play this on our
do,
current generation games, which I don't know how I feel about that. Like, there's a part of me that's like I almost wish that they would have bumped it back a little
and waited
more. Yeah,
because
and just made it a next generation thing. But
and
again,
that's kind of my issue too. It's like, okay, so are they going to re-release it on next gen as well? Because a lot of
I'm sure
times
they
with
are.
these games, they double dip. So
And
they'll
we've talked about that before. Like I remember the most recent Legend of Zelda came out on the Wii
the
U
Wii U, yeah,
and the Nintendo Switch. So
right,
and this is another one of those games that will probably like the PlayStation 5 will probably launch with this. There will be
yeah,
some games that will probably have a bundle where you're able to play this also,
yeah,
or it'll come with it. They always do stuff like that. But
right,
I'm of the mindset that, dude, especially with everybody, especially different parts of America not opening up, man, like having this right in the middle of July, like, dude, I
yeah,
want to, that, dude, this is coming out in what, 2 months? Like, dude, I'm
yeah,
I'm pumped, man. Like, it's gonna be right in the middle of summer. There's no sports being played
right,
really, especially with this COVID shit. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's a great time to be a gamer. And yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think that there is something to be said about, and you mentioned this to me in our DMs. This is like the last hurrah of a
yeah,
console
yeah. It
cycle.
is.
Like everything that the Sony PlayStation 4 is
Yeah,
capable of doing. You're seeing it right now. Like
right
this
now.
is
I
the
mean, this is the
pinnacle
peak
of
of
what.
everything.
Yeah, for a hundred
Um,
percent.
and that's the great thing. I mean, this is only one of them. I mean, we have The Last of Us coming out next month, and we've got this coming out in July, right after that, and then
Yeah, a
uh,
lot.
Cyberpunk's coming in September, which I think will be the swan song of this generation.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
well,
really,
maybe,
but no, I'm actually glad that you mentioned that because like those are the triforce essentially of what this
yeah,
system is capable of. Obviously, we know that
right,
Naughty Dog is going to knock Uncharted out of the park. It's going to be
definitely,
gorgeous no matter what. And you have Cyberpunk, which is
yeah,
an open world. Like I mean, you and I even said this at the time when we did our video on it. Probably
right.
the most ambitious open world game that maybe there has ever been in
I think so,
Cyberpunk.
but I
Yeah,
think
can
this also Ghost of
well,
Tsushima gives it a run for
well,
its money. I think. Just
okay.
looking at this.
This excites me. So I'll put it to you this way and then ask you this. I'm
Okay,
more excited to play this than I am Cyberpunk. But
I'm torn.
I do feel Cyberpunk because it's in a futuristic city and you have
Yeah.
buildings and spots that you can go into and a bunch of different NPCs that have voices and a crazy character customizer. I do think Cyberpunk is more ambitious and it's
I do too.
trying to do more, but this is by far more my speed, more
I
what I would want to play.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence. on both. I mean, I'm getting them all.
We're
So
both
what the
gonna
hell does it
we're
matter?
both gonna play both. But
Yeah,
I would much rather just be a kick-ass fucking samurai ninja in feudal Japan. I mean, and partly
yeah,
because I haven't had that itch scratched before. You know,
yeah.
I mean, whereas we've had futuristic titles and futuristic worlds, but like I
That's
said,
true.
Assassin's Creed failed to deliver this experience in feudal Japan. And now, if they ever do decide to, which
It's
by
just going to be a ripoff of
like
this, really.
now you're going to compare it directly to this. I'm also
Yeah.
happy now that I'm talking, that this isn't connected to the Templar assassins bullshit.
No.
You know, like now
So
it's
yeah,
a
so you're not going to
yeah,
have any of that mystical shit or any of the back and forth. I mean, this
right.
is
It's just
clearly just its own thing,
it's
which I
in
love. So yeah,
Japan during a very not only an underserviced genre from a samurai ninja standpoint. We don't have a
most
whole lot of titles that are in this era, but to make it open world and then to make it a very specific time period in Japanese history that is one fascinating and two underexplored. I mean, dude, sign me up, man. Sign me
yeah,
up. I am so pumped for this.
yeah,
Um, I'm into it. I mean, I'm a story person when it comes to video games. Anyway,
yeah.
I would prefer spend a bunch of time on this than I would a multiplayer game. I mean,
Oh,
which
most
by the way, I mean I
definitely.
do love a multiplayer game too, but just being able to have an experience on your own playing a game,
Yep.
like that's what I grew up doing. You know,
Yeah, and
playing
see
video
that's the
games and
thing.
just
I think
having moments.
yeah, I think that's what's lost in today's gaming world, and maybe we could make this whole topic. But I'm not a big fan of multiplayer games. I've always been a single player game guy, and it's because of this, because you're able to have awesome self-contained experiences that can really blow you away. Whereas with, something that's a multiplayer game, you're basically just doing the same shit over and over and over again. Um,
Right.
I would rather have a solid, single player experience that blows my mind rather than the same repetitive stuff. And this definitely seems to, like you said, scratch that itch. A lot of games have tried. I mean, you've got games like Neo and Sekiro and even Tenchu, like I mentioned earlier, but
Yeah.
those were very niche things, and none of them really hit all the marks. Some of them focused more on stealth. Some of them were more samurai based than ninja based. Here you get all of it, and it makes sense. It doesn't seem shoehorned in. And here we actually have a character. We have Jin, right? Which means
Yeah.
he's going to have his own story. He's not a character that you made, that's just going
Yeah.
along on the ride. I'm sure he's going to have his own arc, his own thing going on, which is going to be great from a story perspective. Because that's the other thing. When you customize your own character, like when you make one from scratch, everybody has the same experience pretty much because
Yeah.
they can't tailor the focus around the character, but here they can, and it's
Right.
awesome. And I
And
just
again, which is why I kind of wanted to make that comparison from this Ghost of Tsushima to Cyberpunk, because that's why I say Cyberpunk to me is the most ambitious, because like they are trying to make it where like what you were just saying, if you have a created
yeah,
character, your experience is kind of the same because they can't tailor the story directly
right,
to the specifications of whatever character you built. But
hmm,
Cyberpunk is trying to do that. Like they
right,
are, like they even said at the start that you're going to be able to, it's going to change the interactions that you have,
right,
where you start, all these different things. So, but again, like to how you were saying it, whenever you don't have a created character in an open world game, you are allowed to experience what this man is going to go through. And
yeah,
we talked about this before in a previous episode. Everything being multiplayer, and this has happened for years now. But it, you know, being uh, stories like these that are kind of isolated in and of themselves, I hope
Yeah.
that they don't become more and more rare. Just because more and more people prefer multiplayer experiences
Yeah.
or creating your own character or open worlds. Like, I
Hmm.
want to know about Jin. You know, I
Me
want to
too.
know
Me
what
too.
makes
I'm
him tick.
curious.
I mean, I'm already looking at the character animations of all the other people that are around him, and it does seem like it's going to have a decent cast of characters. Like, we don't really
Yeah.
know a whole lot about the intricacies of the story, which, by the way, I'm happy about, being that it's
Yeah.
only 2 months
Thank you for
away.
not spoiling everything in
Yeah,
the first damn
yes,
trailer. Thank you
yes,
so much,
yes,
Suckfoot.
yes, yes, yes. Say that, dude. So many developers spoil uh, key elements of their story in trailers. By the way, they might still do that. I mean, we have 2 months. They're going to put out a final trailer. There's going to be more stuff to come out. I'm probably going to avoid all of that.
No, I was
Because,
gonna say we've gotten all we need to get right now. There's no reason to even do
right,
another one, really,
right.
if
This is
you
what
ask me.
I'm pumped. I'm sold. I'm going to buy this game. I want to
Yeah.
know the story. I don't need to see any more. I'm not going to watch any more trailers that come out. I'm pumped. I want to play this. Take my money.
Yes. In fact,
Essentially.
they already have. I already pre-ordered it. They have
Yeah,
my money.
there you go. I haven't done it yet, but I'll do it at
I'm
some point
going.
in
I've
time.
already have. So they've already got it. It's the deluxe edition. So you're welcome. Sorry much. You're welcome. Uh, yeah, I've already done it.
Well,
So
we've gone through the trailer a whole nother time, a second time. Jeffrey, we're coming
yep.
to an end. Is there anything else that you wanted to say or bring up or mention or any final thoughts about anything that we've talked about today? The tech demo or Ghost of Tsushima, whatever. The floor is yours.
I am. First of all, I'm pumped for next generation. Just seeing what I've seen so far, as little as it is, um, the lighting and effects, they all look fucking fantastic, and I can't wait to see what happens in general. Because they are able to now make some very impressive looking stuff, and I can't wait to see what they do with an open world like this. And that's the thing. This is just the beginning of next gen. Could you imagine what happens later down the line when they really get a hold of what this technology could do? So that's all I have to say is that I'm super excited for the future. And so, yeah, do you have any final things?
I mean, listen, I echo a lot of what you just said. Man, I'm just so pumped, man. It's like I said, I've been a long time Assassin's Creed fan, and
Hmm.
the Assassin's Creed fandom has been begging for this experience, man. And that's why I keep on bringing up Assassin's Creed, is because this is the game that we've been asking for forever, that we've
Yeah,
been wanting to play, just because of everything I just said. There hasn't been a tried and true, at least I don't feel. I mean, it's not like I'm saying there haven't been games set in feudal Japan, but none to
right.
this level of quality, to this level of detail, the ability to make your character fight in the style that you want and the way that you want, making it an
Hmm.
open world that just gives you the choice to play. That's what I'm
Right.
most excited about. And moving into this next console generation, I mean, dude, what other experiences have we been asking for forever? But now we're going to be able to deliver on those kinds of experiences, you know?
Yeah, most definitely.
I even mentioned
Um,
in our Final Fantasy 7 full spoiler podcast, you know, imagine if the next Final Fantasy 7 is an open world. Like after you
yeah.
leave Midgar, it's an open world that's just filled with incredible,
Hmm.
beautiful graphics, and no load times. I mean, dude,
Yeah.
we're on the precipice of, you know, people just, you know how there are some movies where people connect to a digital world and then they blank out of real life.
Yes.
You know, they quit living their own life. Dude, that time is now, man.
Yeah,
Like,
most definitely. I think if there's any time for gaming to really step up and really start making a name for itself, it's
Yeah.
now. Because
Yeah.
technology is no longer an issue, as far as I'm concerned. So, um, so developers get on that shit, make the game you want to make, and
Yeah.
really go balls to the wall because there's no excuse not to now. So,
100%. Yeah, 100%. Um, Man, I'm just so pumped. I'm happy that this trailer dropped yesterday for us to be able to talk about it for an entire podcast today.
mhm.
My name is Cody Lashley. This is Jeffrey Redmond. Jeffrey, tell them where they can find you
I
online.
am I am at Jeffro Red. That's JEFFRORED on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook the same way.
That's Jeffrey Redmond. My name is Cody Lashley. You can find me on Twitter at CodyLac, CodyLac, and on Facebook as well, Cody Lashley. And that will be all for the first live episode of the Cripple Connection podcast. If you like what you've seen, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button too, so that way we get seen by as many people as possible. And we'll be back next Friday for another episode of the Cripple Connection podcast. Peace and love.
See you guys.